I think she's not gonna work Sundays anymore.
The Nixon.
Huh? That's what she told me. She had too much.
You can imagine.
I've lost track of who comes from this as well.
Some people were kind of peppering on off like F.
Man, bunch of wimps. If it wasn't for Hashavas, I'd be working 7 days a week, man. Come on.
Yeah. He still has kids at home, so that's. Okay, Canaan Hard, they're doing quite a bit of construction here.
That wasn't a disaster in that room.
What
All you did was take down the chandelier.
You missed one step.
I did, I tripped.
You know, side step. It used to be in the back, this whole,
Well, kitchen, survival.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the ceiling.
Yeah, I understand. But, I thought that a real super disaster. I think you have to say that that was the fanciest yeshiva dining room ever. With a huge chandelier, you know?
It served itself well for many years.
I can't believe it survived.
Yeah.
It sort of did.
So we're starting from the back of the page.
Yes.
Some of the students didn't survive with it either.
Some of the what?
Okay, amazing.
Some of the what?
Remember the football game in the dining room?
One.
Yeah, there you go. I rest my case.
Can't be worse than breaking the window in here.
You should see those
Okay, we don't
little
go important.
glass section windows we have. They can fly pretty well. I mean, they splinter as they go.
Okay, good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This being the second to last share of the season. As Hashem, next week we'll hope to do a personality share, halachic personality. And following that, we'll sign off for the season. Hope to go through a top 10 list of all these shiurim of the year. But Bez Hashem, tune in next week. Now,
Or come in person.
this week's share,
Or come in person.
right? Tune in means come. This week's share has quite an interesting metamorphosis. How did this share come about? Sometimes shiurim come about, people ask questions, there are interesting, controversial issues going on in the world, in the frum world, and we address them. This one came about randomly. I don't know if any other share came across like this. Very, very strange. Let me first give a little bit of an introduction. The Lakewood Yeshiva, which today is Kanai Nahara, I think there's 8,000 Talmidim, young Bachrim and younger light in the yeshiva itself in Lakewood. Obviously, you know the growth of the city of Lakewood and the surrounding cities, all because of that yeshiva. But really, the growth is all across America. There are kolim in so many different cities. Today, I think they're marking the Sudas Preda for a group of Lakewood Kol people who are moving out to Orlando or places, starting a Kol over there. And really amazing growth from a little yeshiva. Lakewood wasn't always the biggest yeshiva in America. And it just grew and grew. And Baruch Hashem. So we all know Rabbi Aaron Cutler. Huh? Sure. Sure, for taking the branches. But we all know Rabbi Aaron Cutler is the hero of spreading Torah in America. Obviously, there are other Gedolim that made their impact too. But Rabbi Aaron is usually referred to as the face of really the growth of Torah in America over the past, many decades. But there's another unsung hero in that picture, which, if you're not in the know, you may have even heard of him before. someone named Nosson Wachtfogal. Nosson Wachtfogal, I believe, I really do, this is not a halachic biography, but I believe he was born in America. I think he even went to Yeshiva University, Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. He went, I believe, he went to Europe to learn. Might have even learned in Klutsk, Rav Aaron. But he was one of the early, that generation of Victor Miller, Mordechai Gifter, of American boys who were influenced by Europe. I saw some interesting story. There was this Dr. Belkin, he was the president of YU. So he originally came from Rodden, so couldn't speak English. Young Nosson Wachtfogal taught Dr. Belkin English, and Dr. Belkin taught him how to learn. Maisa Rav Wachtfogal became Rav Aaron Kotler's right-hand man. When Lakewood was started, I believe, really Lakewood started off, there was a kollel in White Plains, which Nosson Wachtfogal was a part of. And then Rav Aaron took over that kollel, moved it to Lakewood, and opened the yeshiva. I believe, not right then in the beginning, a little later, Nosson Wachtfogal assumed the position of mashkiach in the yeshiva, which really was Rav Aaron Kotler's right-hand man. And with Nosson Wachtfogal was a tremendous hashpah and influence on the yeshiva. He himself was a driving force in this idea that we spoke of community kollel. It was really his push, idea to spread it, and he deserves a lot of credit for the spreading of those kollel throughout the world. What's interesting, maybe even eerie, is he was such a close Talmud right-hand man of Rav Aaron Kotler. Even in Shemayim, he was forever linked. His yortzeit fell out. I remember when he was nifter, the same exact day as his Rebbe, Rav Aaron Kotler. Holy, great man. His son is a major Rosh Yeshiva, Bear Wachtfogal in South Fallsburg. It's his son. So they published, after his nifter, a whole slew of small Musar Svarim on different topics. A lot of them really based on the holidays and the Moadim. Leket Rishimos. So, Yeshiva and the new Beis Medrash, besides a new, nice-looking Beis Medrash, I think the thing that looks the most nice in the new Beis Medrash is all the brand new Svarim. Yeshiva's got tens of thousands of dollars worth of brand new Svarim in the Yeshiva, including a whole set of Wachtfogal Svarim. So I picked up one of those Svarim the other day. I was looking at it, and no one ever pays attention. You have the cover page, then you have the page behind the cover page, which usually has the copyright info, has info where you could get the Sefer, how to acquire the Sefer. But then look what it has over the publisher. Look what it has over here. If someone does not yet have a sheet, please take a sheet just to see this phenomenon, because I think it's quite amazing.
Okay. Rabbi, you got another
But I have more if one needs. There, more just okay. The next batch of people. But okay, so most people gloss over this page. There's no reason to see the second page of a Sefer unless you want to see who the copyright was by, where you could buy the Sefer from, who printed it. Whoever pays attention to the second page of a Sefer. Well, I guess I did. In the little box, I'll read to you the language, first in Hebrew, then I'll translate. Right? I even looked back. They wrote this language two different ways. I guess in the earlier editions, they wrote it a certain way. They clarified it in this later Sefer. There's a box that says, Hashavas Aveida. Kishmaron Mashkiach the Lakewood. That's all. When our Rebbe, the Mashkiach of Lakewood, Haya be'eretz Yisrael b'shnas Tafshin Nun Vav. When he was in Eretz Yisrael in the year Tafshin Nun Vav, it was approximately 1996. Nimtzu Parshil Shel Tefillin B'achsan Yishalom. he found there were parshios of tefillin in his host. Sounds like with Nosson Wachtfogal was staying by some vacation rental. They put up the mashgiach when he was visiting Eretz Yisrael in some rental, which beforehand, who knows was there before him. And he found parshios of tefillin. Ha'ovi misvakish l'skasha l'tel, the person who lost it should please reach out to the telephone number and gives an Israeli number. This is the advertisement for Hashavas Aveida, which is found inside, I believe now, all over Nosson Wachtfogal Svarb. It seems they've printed this advertisement and they keep on printing this advertisement. I assume Ad Hayom, that was one of the things I wanted to check up on. I never got a chance. Maybe I should call one of the numbers over here to check. I don't know if they would even know, but we'll see. Yes. I was debating.
Same number as the first division?
Huh? Yeah. Really, the person who knows the most, this is Rabbi Hachster. He's the one who put out the Svarim. He's a Talmud of Wachtfogal. I think he actually comes into Lakewood every so often and gives a shmooze in the yeshiva. But I find this so fascinating. Here you have inside the cover of a sefer, an advertisement for Hashavas Aveida. Has nothing to do with the sefer, other than that the author of the sefer, not even the author, the person who the Torah of Wachtfogal, the mashgiach of the Lakewood Yeshiva, so he's the one who found it. And there's details. If you want to claim you're missing parshios of tefillin, please call this number. I showed this yesterday to Posik. He just laughed. No one ever saw this, right? But for care, I think I found the Aveida by finding the advertisement for the Aveida. Right? Now, look, in the Jewish newspapers, they actually have in the classified ads, sometimes you'll find the thing for Hashavas Aveida.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be a better hachraza spot, just because more people might turn to there versus in a sefer. But, that costs money every time to run it. If you write a sefer, you print a sefer, it doesn't cost any money. Just, on the cover, you put it in. But what I really would like to do today is talk about this particular case of the Hashavas Aveida, as well as a few other cases that I'll bring up. Fascinating tshuva from Ramosha. But really dealing with Hashavas Aveida here, the mashgiach was the one who found the lost object. He was nifter 20-something years ago. But the Hashavas Aveida, or the potential for Hashavas Aveida, is still going on. Right? If, maybe, I don't know, maybe by giving this share, publicizing this, maybe now they'll find the lost, the owner of the lost parshios. But L'maisa, I assume if and when the owner is found, the Wachtfogal will get credit, which is a fascinating thing, right? Yeah. For those watching at home, the phone number is 02-581-0154. Operators are standby.
Mention promo code.
Yeah. L'maisa, we have all our Makomos usually with the share posted, so we'll be, we'll make sure to post this page. But it's absolutely fascinating. So I'd like to dissect, these halachos of Hashavas Aveida, I guess first for this case, and then we'll try to go through for some other interesting case. Here, I guess the first and foremost issue we're going to be discussing, what I want to talk about, is this how, we don't have too many mitzvahs that a person has any type of responsibility post Achamir V'Asum Shana. After you're finished, right? After you're finished, right? What obligations does a person have? Now, okay, granted there's a ksuba, So ksuba, responsibilities to one's wife, okay, that the male takes effect after Misa. There's Dina Yerusha, but all of those are set into play, Chayav, and it just rolls. What other obligations does a person have after one passes away? Interesting question. Here, we'll have to see, is this a Chiyav, not a Chiyav? But here, there's Hashavas Aveida situation, which is going on 20 years, over 20 years, after Nosson Wachtfogal was nifter. More than 25 years.
25 years, 1998.
Yeah. Years after he found it. Yeah. Ninvav should be 96.
96.
You don't know that it wasn't found.
Huh?
You don't know that it wasn't found.
I know it wasn't found.
No.
Because they just republished these farm recently with the same.
November 20,
Yeah.
1998.
Huh? No. I assume they were taking it out. No, even more so, right? People are asking me, wait, Rabbi, maybe they found the guy already. So as of just a few years ago, they did not. Because they constantly republished the Sefer with this Hashavas Aveida ad in it. And not only that, they updated the language of the ad, just to make it more clear. You know, it was edited, the original advertisement.
What exactly was lost again?
The Mashgiach of Lakewood found in the host he was staying by in Eretz Yisrael, it sounds like it was some bed and breakfast, some vacation apartment. He found Parshios of Tefillin. The inside of the tefillin, that's really what's worth the big money. He found Parshios of Tefillin by the house they were staying. And it seems, for safekeeping, he left it with the owner, he gave it to the owner, the owner didn't know anything about it. Being the fact that Wachtfogal was the one who found it, we'll see, sounds like he is taking some of the achrayas, to do the Hashavas Aveida, and he's announcing it. He's publicizing it. And reaching out that if someone finds it, they should call this number. Now, no one checked if this number is the same as any of the other numbers, right? So it's not any other of the Wachtfogal's people, right? This number seemingly is the number of the person who owns that apartment. Let's buy him.
The number's placed on the page.
Huh?
In the middle of the page on the left side,
Ooh.
Prophet Adler.
Shh. Okay. 2 points for my investigators. So now we know, right? So I wonder, I take it back. Does it mean Wachtfogal stayed by the Adlers and that's where he found this? Or no, the owner of the rental, whatever, the host, didn't want to take any responsibility. It was all on Wachtfogal. And Wachtfogal gave it to his trusted Talmud. Same way he trusts his Talmud to sell a Sefer, and he's the one, you have any thing to contact. Right? So too over here. Fascinating. Mr. Lichman, Jr., excellent point. Junior.
Junior. The third.
He's the first. That's third.
Okay. Shh. Time on first. Okay. Now,
Harvey, you're on.
see, it's good he came. Harvey, this is Gufa share about Doros. So, okay? Baruch Hashem. Now, let's go through the basics. Okay? Now, we could get into the technical nitty-gritty of this case itself, right? It's actually an interesting halacha. The Gemara does talk about a case of a pundik, of an inn, where multiple people stay, and you find an object over there. What's the halacha? Okay? So, the Gemara's case is where multiple people go there at the same time. Here, it sounds like Wachtfogal was there by himself. Obviously, there were people staying in that room before him. So he found it. Is it from the last guy, the guy before? Not so easy to tell. Now, do we assume that the owner was miyayish in this case? It's tricky. It's not mamash or shusarabim. He didn't lose it in the street. It was in a private home. But it is a private home that's open to people, whether they're renting it or, I don't know, staying there. Parshas of Tefillin, look, it's the same parshas we all have in Tefillin. There's nothing different about it in terms of the actual parsha. But the writing of it, the ksav, different sofrim do write differently. You could match up potentially one ksav with another ksav.
It says
Yeah.
we need a siman muvak.
Like by a get. Like by a get. Very good point.
So
right?
The same.
Right, Fried saying that l'chara, the actual ksav, so the Gemara in Gittin talks about a get that's lost, and there the Gemara gives as a siman, specifically a hole or something very unique about it. Yeah, for sure for a siman muvak. Correct. So I was saying maybe just even the ksav itself, right? Pashut the Gemara doesn't give that as a siman.
It's a little different there because if they get, it has to be written with shema. Here, it just
right. There's no lishma. It has to be l'shem tefillin. Right.
It's a possibility all these years later that these parshas are not in motion.
So I assume they checked.
And also for sure not fixable if they're not.
Yeah, I assume they checked it. And I assume it's worth something. That's also an interesting halacha. If you find something that's not really worth any money, then there's no chiyuv hashav on it. Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yes.
the owner, he would be Yish at this point, no?
So perhaps that's what we're debating. If it's something that doesn't have a siman, would the owner be miyayish? Perhaps. At the same time, this is something that's very, assuming it's kosher tefillin and can be written well, you're talking about something that's worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So, correct, but really, for a lot of what you pay for the tefillin are the parshas, right? Not the black boxes. No, those are important too. Right, but yeah,
Rav Wachtfogal himself held that he's not miyayish. So either you can check the ksav and this is not a rishus.
Right. So we'll talk about right. So there's halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, before I get to that clear halacha, you're right. It's debatable in this type of case, would there be yish or not? Even if there would be yish, there's always a din of nimish or sadin to return it. Pashtas, this whole situation is probably a situation of nimish or sadin. That's what I would think.
If it's something nimish or sadin, then even the fact that it's after his death is also.
Well, we'll see. Right. Now, here's the halacha. Okay, if you turn to the other side of the page, if you look, Oz Beis, the Shulchan Aruch Oshem Mishpat, Siman Reis Samach Zayin, Hichriz, okay, so you find this object, and whether it's halacha, you're mechuyev, there's no yish, or even the guy was miyayish, but you're doing some lefnim shur sadin. Hichriz v'lo noda mihil bal Aveida. If you call out, you publicize that you found this item, and the guy doesn't come. You put in advertisements, you put up signs, you found something, and the owner doesn't come. This is very relevant. It happens. Zak the Shulchan Aruch, yemunach ad sheyavo Elyo. Keep it to Elyo, Navi comes.
That's mechaber.
That's mechaber. Yes.
Well, we know that's what he's really doing.
Correct.
Then he just puts an ad somewhere just in case.
Right. Now, it's a very interesting halacha. The halacha yemunach ad sheyavo Elyo. Simply put, this halacha, you find a lost object, you do everything you can to try to get the owner. Now again, if it's something where there's an assumption the owner is miyayish and this, so then it's easy, it's yours. But let's say it's something that's not. You picked it up, when you found, by the time you found it, the guy wasn't yet miyayish. You could have a yish l'midas case. So there are all different scenarios where you could come to a lost item where you have some type of chiyuv hashava, and you try to find the owner, you don't find the owner. There's a halacha of yemunach al sheyavo Elyo. You keep the item till Elyo Navi is going to tell you who the item belongs to. That's by definition a makor for an idea that Hashavas Aveida could go for generations. Yes.
So this is assuming that there's no Yerush, and it's assuming that there's some kind of value to the item.
For sure is value. We're assuming. Yes. Yes.
I mean, it does seem a little bit mashma that there's.
And assuming that there's something.
Like,
assuming.
I mean, it seems a little bit mashma. There is some kind of I guess, a cutoff point. That, if you don't find the owner, then you munach. So at a certain point, that almost like there is a cutoff of when you're no longer required to.
Right.
Keep looking.
Keep looking. Right. The Gemara goes to call for Yom Tovim, a certain amount of period of time that a person has to be machris. But if at that point you call and don't publicize it, right? So someone told me an interesting story. Should I tell the story? Someone told me a story of how they're cleaning out their house and they found a sefer that belonged to a different person, and the person moved to Eretz Yisrael, and they went and they had some crazy Ashkacha Prata story. 50 years later, and they ran into the person, and after all that, the guy's like, oh, forget it, you can keep it. But that doesn't take away one iota from your mitzvah for 50 years. You had a mitzvah, Hashavas Aveida, which you honestly did. You get scared. The guy says, oh, keep it. No, buddy. I waited 50 years to return this to you.
Our family recently.
You keep it.
Our family recently had the opposite, where the owner was thrilled to get it back, and it wasn't even an uncommon sefer. It was like an art girl sitter.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Hashavas Aveida is really a mitzvah which could end up being 50 years, a generations.
Why can't Anavi tell us, like, toward the end of the Seder, on an annual basis?
All those things.
This is a good idea, right? You heard it here first from Josh. Josh is going to greet Eliyahu Navi next year by Pesach with his box of lost items, lost and found, right? Right?
I mean,
Josh, why are you waiting till then? There's a double bris happening tomorrow in Share.
Fair enough.
Bring it there.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying is,
leave it on the chair.
I'm saying, if Santa Claus knows it's naughty and nice.
Leave it by Eliyahu Navi's chair.
Dang, I mean, we should come around with a little list every year.
Amazing.
Annually. Fix this nonsense every year. That's it.
Now, I found there's a sefer Pischei Choshen, which is actually interesting. I started the Hakdama talking about that. The chevra of American Bachim that went back to Europe to learn. One of them was Moshe Aaron Stern. It was actually mishpacha to all for the boss of Yaakov Yosef Herman. So his son, Yechiel Michal, is a big Rav, a big Talmid Chacham, Yeah. But Moshe Aaron Stern, the Mashgiach of Kamenetz, he went, I believe, to learn back in Europe. It could have even been in Kamenetz. So his son is a huge Talmid Chacham, Posek. He's written many Svarim. So this is one of the Svarim he has on Choshen Mishpat, Pischei Choshen. Writes the following. I'll read from the top there. Someone gave you an object to watch, or you found something, which by definition that makes you a shomer Aveida. You have to watch the item that you found. Doesn't matter how long you're watching it. It doesn't automatically go to you. He writes, he found from Nesivas, okay, if it's something that you'll never find out who belongs to the owner, it's not your money. You can't just pass it on the Yerusha to your kids. But what about a scenario where you assume the owner passed away? This is what he writes. He hears it said, if the owner passes away, the owner, let's say in our case, if the tefillin pass away, perhaps the finder could then keep it. And he says, I'm going to come back to this little idea he's saying. He's saying it's mashma maybe from, he thinks, once he saw some line from the Nesivas, and a little bit mashma from Chassam Sofer, that if the owner of a lost item passed away,
You don't know.
so maybe then, right, but let's say it's over a long period of time, whereby then, pashtus, right, even if it was a 13-year-old kid, okay, he does right, something that has yesh lo midas, shadas kama poskim mutalo l'shtamish behem, you're mutter to use it, near shadayim yichtov b'pinkaso. This is a very interesting psak which comes up quite a bit. A person could write on his ledger that he found this object as a lost object. You would be allowed to use the item as long as you write down, keep a record, write down that this item was a lost item. It's not mine, but I'm using it, right? Practically speaking. Now, it would have to be, a very clear thing. Let's say in our case with the Parshas of Tefillin, if you would say this is a situation of Yesh Lo Midas, so I mean, Ikar Adin, right? Okay, we paskin should try to return it. But there, the poskim do say one would be allowed to use the item. So as long as you write on the side, okay, I'm keep this item I don't own. And Eliyah Navi comes, I'll give it to the owner. Then he writes an interesting line. He says it's a big question. People debate. Right? If I read you the halach in Shulchan Aruch, is Yemunach Achiyav Yo, how come I never inherited something from my grandfather, great-grandfathers, some lost items? Shouldn't we all be walking around with Josh's box, a big box of lost and found, right? Shouldn't we all have such an item that we were Yorish from our forefathers? He says no, because after a certain time, if it's Yesh Lo Midas, one would be allowed to use the item. You should write it in the sign. That doesn't fully answer because, where's the list of all the items our grandparents, got that way? So, okay, that's one thing he talks about. He has a very interesting other discussion. Huh?
See that?
Yeah.
That would have taken a...
Yeah, that would be a good reason, right? Stop. Harvey brings up, Henach used to say this all the time. He used to ask him questions about, what switched? You say they used to go like this in Europe. Henach said, I don't know what happened, but something happened. Things got lost over. Yiddishkeit got lost. I'm not sure it's been fully found, between the Holocaust and today. I'm sure a lot of things. So the fact that we don't have these things nowadays is less of a kasha. But years ago, even in Europe, people didn't necessarily have, pre the Holocaust, have Yerusha of lost items, the lost and found box. But he has a whole discussion next. Could one give the money to tzedakah? This way you're doing something. Otherwise, it's sitting gathering dust in your attic. Shouldn't you at least give it to tzedakah? It'd be okay. You want to write how much the value of the item you found was. This, at least in the interim, it should be making money. So he has a whole discussion when you give it to tzedakah. I want to shift, watching the clock, gears. I found another shaila from Moshe Feinstein, really starting the other way, but it's nogea what the lines that this Piskei Choshon said. Moshe Feinstein deals with a very interesting case. Can't make it up. It's right here in the Tshuva. This is Igros Moshe Yeridea Chelak Daled, Siman Mem Daled. Talks about a case that a family, let's say, moved into their new house right before Pesach. Right, that's always the best time to move in. But Lamaisa, okay, you still have to do a bedika. It's not a brand new house. You bought the house. Okay? So they're doing a bedika. The kids are always excited. The kids are the best ones, excited to go searching. You won't believe this. But I'll read the first lines. Uvidavar hatabas. Sheba Evan Yakar, he had a ring which had a very precious stone in it, a diamond. Shnimsa our base of Bashas B'dikas Chametz. Shayis Muntefes B'nayer Tachas HaShituach. It was found underneath the, what's that next word? Carpet. Moshe writes out. You found basically a diamond ring under the carpet, in the carpet.
They looked under the carpet.
Maybe Rottenberg wrote a song about it.
Right? And they see, my gosh, it's covered in layers and layers. This is from a long time ago. Right? Sometimes you look for treasures, under the sea. That was a few weeks ago. But this one we found right here in a house under the carpet. And so it's very interesting. So they asked the Shaila to the local Rav. So the local Rav looked at this case and saw, ooh, what do we do here? The kid who found it is on the bar mitzvah. So does the item go to the kid's father? Somebody else? Who gets it? The Rav was dealing with the Shaila. Everyone's fighting over the ownership of the diamond ring. So the Rav sent this Shaila to Rav Moshe. Who gets the item in a situation where the person who found it was a kid on the bar mitzvah? That was the way the question was presented to Rav Moshe. But they gave him the background of it was basically found in a house that they just moved into. And for simplicity's sake, there's only one real person who lived there before. Years ago, some old lady.
And the kid
Now, right, and the kid found it, so what's the halacha? Look at the second paragraph. This is fascinating. As a Rav, you always have to be aware of this. This is a very important thing our Moshe teaches. Seems from the way you wrote it, where Moshe's writing to this Rav. Okay, it's from this old lady. Her kids would inherit it. For sure, it belongs to the finder. There's a katan, it should go to the father. But it was found on Yontif. It was only found, it sounds like at the end of Yontif, not just with B'dikas Chametz. So the whole family's in the house. So this almost became a family fight. Granted, the kid from the house, whose father owns the house, was there, but there are relatives there too. And they were there involved. Who gets it? So Moshe writes back. Let's read now the third paragraph. Right? It was pasha to you that the woman who lost it, you're telling me she has no rights to it, her Yarshim have no rights. But Moshe said the whole premise of your question is wrong. You're asking me the wrong Shaila. You're asking me a Shaila.
Who gets to keep it?
Who gets to keep it? Which keeper gets to keep it? Is the father, the kid, the other people there? No. Slow down.
Right.
You know who owns this item? The old lady who sold the house. The old lady who sold the house owns the item. Why? The children of the person who passed away, they have a din of a karov. Even something they never knew of. They never knew grandma owned this ring. The lady forgot about it. The old lady forgot about that ring. The kids didn't know anything about it. It doesn't matter. Yerusha goes automatically, irrelevant of whether you know it's yours or not. You knew you had it or not. It's an automatic thing. And therefore, Rav Moshe writes, look all the way at the end, the bottom of the page. There's no svar to say that she was mafkaret. El shel hiskara ben kain hu shel zikna yishmesuhu yarshav V'zel l'chor pasha l'dina. Moshe Feinstein Paskins, you're asking the wrong question. Hashavas Aveida doesn't just go one generation. It goes multiple generations. The loser, the person who lost the object, again, right? Talk about Yish, not Yish. But Moshe doesn't really address that in this. He assumes for sure the person was not Ya'ish. It was an expensive thing. It was a simon. They lost it. They forgot it. Forgetting is not Yish. So Rav Moshe says, Hilchos Hashavas Aveida, this is not yours. You have to give it to the Yarshim of that lady.
That's not you. That's someone who forgot that something happened.
Right.
I mean,
But she
Yeah.
sold,
Yes.
it seems like she sold the house with the personal property in it, if that carpet was still there.
No,
She
but
sold the house, she didn't sell something that she.
didn't know was there.
somebody.
No, but
She didn't sell something which she didn't know was
What
there.
if there was a clause, the house and everything that's in it?
Okay, so that's a very
That's what
interesting
he
question.
said. That's what he
What the people are bringing up,
Standard personal property.
right?
Huh?
Personal property clause, yeah.
Couldn't you
Right.
still
That
argue
carpet
in
was-
secular law?
That carpet was not put down with the intent of the ring being in
I
it.
never intended
That was-
that ring was part of the sale.
No, that just happened. I
I
mean,
lost
Agree with that, yeah.
From a halachic perspective, even if you sold the metalton, the things in the house, but here she didn't know this was in the house. She never would have sold it.
It's not,
The whole thing is-
diamond rings are not sold with the house.
Right.
The refrigerator may be sold.
Correct.
with the house.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so, but if you put a clause, everything that's in it.
Regardless of what's there.
Then
Right. Right, but no one's going to do that.
Why, I mean, it's,
That's
you could
not
do it. I
typical.
mean,
No, you sometimes, right, people
why
do.
would it not be typical?
Right.
I'm
Pe-
sure.
No. Right. I assume the typical situation is I'm selling you with all the things which I know are in the house. You know, for example, the only time I hear a case like that is people have these vaults. People are into it's a new shtick. You buy a vault. What's it? People have storage. You buy the whole storage thing. What's in it? I'm selling everything in storage. I don't know what's in there. The buyer doesn't know what's in there. The seller doesn't know what's in there. Okay. You write a clause. I'm selling you this whole storage unit.
Right.
Whatever's in there,
No,
you know, scavenger hunt.
It's more it's done with the owner of the storage facility. They have something that's locked, it's
Right.
marked in-
A lockbox.
but yeah, but that's organized. This is
Yeah.
That's
The
a
statute
property.
says that it's abandoned, or they, it's not necessarily abandoned, but the person didn't pay for their rent on it, so the landlord's allowed to sell everything in there
Typically.
to cover the rent.
Oh, good point.
That's,
right, but
the seller doesn't
Right.
want it sold.
that's not
Right,
what we're talking about.
right.
We're talking about
Recently, somebody had like
And
a
chandeliers
few
included.
$100,000,
Chandelier is a
in one,
fixture, you know,
and
so
when we
that
realized
usually goes
they
with
ended,
the
it
house.
must have been a million,
Unless you put a
because
clause
they
in
ended
there.
up settling
Like I
for
put in one.
$500,000 or $1 million.
Really?
They gave it back.
My property and half goes with
A lot of cash.
A lot of cash, yeah. So,
It's not in the bank.
Lamaisa, you see from here, from this true for Moshe, not exactly the way the Pesach Choshen said it, but I believe you see here from Moshe.
He said definitely said something that is miyayish, yish show v'davar sheyesh bo yish l'amidas.
Right,
He's talking about yish l'amidas. This is
right.
definitely
No, I was talking about, that's his qualification. Before that, the piece, the third wide line. He said if the owner of the lost item died, it's possible that the finder could be zoch in it. Him or the finder's Yerusha.
Al kol panim v'davar sheyesh bo.
Right, okay.
He's saying it sounds like everything, but at least something like.
Right. So, Lamaisa, these halachas of Hashavas Aveida, Hashavas Aveida is something which can end up spanning generations. It could span generations mitzad the finder. The finder has this lost object that his parent found, and okay, so pass it on. Okay, look, it has to be Hemunach Hachiyav Elio. Write it down. Okay, potentially there are cases like free to bring up a Yershlomi Das case where the postman will say you might be allowed to use that item as long as it's specified to know that this item belonged to somebody else. The ownership of the item belongs to Ruvain, write that down in some ledger, which should be kept in your lost and found box till Eliyahu Navi comes. And so to the other way, if the loser, the Ovaid, passes on, doesn't matter. There are rights that the Yarshim would have to that item too. And here you have a very interesting mitzvah which could span Doros. Now this particular case of the Parshas Tzfon Nosson Wachtfogal, the assumption is what's going on over here is Lefnim or something. It's hard to hear this is a case where there's an absolute chiyuv. At worst, there was a Yishlam Das, who knows? But Lamaisa, I think what you see from the way the Mashgiach treated this is a very important lesson. Is when it comes to money, money is something which we don't want to take to the grave, something which doesn't belong to us. And don't want to get involved in heebie-jeebie, funny stories, they say. But Lamaisa, you find that tzaddikim are very makbid when it comes to money. If Gershon Edelstein was just nifter, the first thing, most important thing he wanted before the Kvura was he had 2 shofars in his possession that didn't belong to him. He borrowed them for use when he blew shofar Kananahar for the past 80 years, whatever the crazy amount of time that he did it, 70, 80 years. He wanted before the Kvura those shofar to go back to the owner. Money that doesn't belong to a person, you don't want a part of. And Memela, you see how meticulous years and years, generations later, there's an ad in a sefer. Please, if these are your parshios, please return it. It's an amazing thing, and it's a schus for the person even after they pass on that they're osik, their family is osik in Hashavas Aveida of lost items that could span generations. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Be'ez Hashem, hope to finish off the year next week. Thank you very much.
I would assume something which is like
Gala.